Hey everyone, and welcome to the Monday, August 31st school committee meeting. Tonight we are going to start off our agenda with the reading and approval of the minutes from August 4th, 2020. Everyone could read through those. Someone can make a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Then we want to approve the minutes from July 29th, 2020.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda are the 2020-2021 homeschool requests. And this is a motion to approve. This is part of the materials that we received earlier today through email. If everyone received that, I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Perfect. Thank you. So the next thing on to the agenda is the discussion of the 2020-2021 school year opening. But before that, I just want to make an announcement regarding Steve Shannon and the Abington Education Association. We're in talks with them right now, and Steve had emailed the committee requesting us to reconsider our vote for hybrid and instead go with remote learning. I just want to say that we received the request and we appreciate it, and everybody has worked really hard and things appear to be going in the right direction for us. So we just want to thank Steve, but as far as I know, we're going to move forward with the hybrid model, and if anyone does have any questions or would like to open this up for reconsideration, we would just have to do it at the next meeting. So you can let me know prior to reopening school if you'd like to bring this up for a revote. Okay. Thanks. So at this point, I'm going to hand it off to Peter. He's going to discuss the reopening. He's been, him and Sherry and everybody have been gathering a frequently asked questions sheet, and they've received some information from people that have posted on Facebook and emails that have been sent to them directly and to us. And so Peter, take it away.
But I'm causing a lot of feedback, so I'm just gonna plug in a set of headphones so I don't wreck this meeting for everybody.
Okay. Is that better?
Yes,
Yes.
you look like a pilot now, too.
I don't feel like a pilot, but I know what it looks like. So I'm sorry I was hurting our sound quality. So we've got some PowerPoint slides that if I could ask, are we able to show that screen, or are people going to be able to follow along at home?
Wendy got muted somehow.
So I want to ask Rich if we're able to show that, or if people are able to follow along at home. I'm sorry for the delay. I just want to make sure. Cool. Thank you, Rich. I'm guessing it was Rich. What we want to do tonight is spend a lot of time just talking through the likely opening scenarios between virtual and hybrid, and answer questions that people might have. And so if I could just have the next slide, please. So we came into this, and I'm going to repeat this because it's worth repeating, using safety as the most important component. And so we took the DESE guidelines that are from the American Academy of Pediatrics and DPH that have been promulgated and translated, and we reviewed them many times. And we've got those standards in place. In many areas, we've exceeded those standards. And we have a responsibility to our students, our staff, and the community at large during a pandemic to follow these rules. There's obviously a lot of talk in our country about different rules and different theories about what different things are about. It's not for us to get into those debates or those arguments. We are following those rules and to the letter of the rules or exceeding them, because the proposition of hurting someone and not being responsible outweighs everything else in terms of our responsibility, again, to our students, our staff, and because we're in a pandemic, to the community at large. And so people will see youth organizations doing different things on different fields, or people about doing things, and they'll say, well, why do they get to do this and you're doing that? Or why are you doing this with that youth group and you're not doing that with the students? I can tell you in terms of Abington Public School responsibility, we are being consistent across the board. And those things that you are seeing in town, please don't let those confuse you. Those are not our programs. When it comes to what we're doing, we're following the rules, and we will continue to do so. We don't have an option. We have to follow those rules. The second most important thing is our students' emotional and mental well-being. Our students have now, by the time we get started, have been away from us for 6 months. And we need to be flexible and thoughtful and adjust to whatever their needs are. And their needs, if we've got, 2,000 plus students coming to us, we have 2,000 plus different needs. They're all going to be at different places. Some kids are just going to be shaking this off, and they're not going to be they're not going to have a tremendous negative effect. And then there are other students we have that are going to be so anxious and so afraid. It's going to be crucial for us to be very, very thoughtful and be monitoring our students continually, engage whatever help they need, and make sure that they get that assistance. Academics, athletics, and the arts are third. They're actually the way we best get to the emotional and mental well-being. Getting them into a thoughtful and productive routine is the best way, giving them stability and consistency that we know that our students crave. And that's why we want to get back to some sort of a routine and contact with our students. But safety is most important, and then the emotional and mental health, and then the academics, athletics, and arts are really the way we get to that emotional and mental health. Could I have the next slide, please? So getting started. Today was actually a first crucial step. Our faculty came back today. We started the day talking about safety, and then at the district level, and then broke it down by school. And our teachers will have time over these next couple of weeks and professional development days for the orientation on hybrid and remote, and learning procedures, instructional protocols, professional development on all of the things that we're doing, whether they're the tools to use online or the safety protocols as students come back to us. It also gives them a chance to ask us questions and get a feel. And we need their input on a very granular level to follow these safety protocols and yet create the best experience for kids that we can. We need their expertise with us, and what they're going to be doing in classrooms and what those procedures might look like. And so those types of things are what are going to be going on for the next couple of weeks, along with training with regard to the social emotional learning piece and how we're best going to be able to, I guess triage is the best word, those students that need great assistance, a little bit of assistance, or all of the students that just need us to continue to keep an eye on them. I'm also going to remind you that, you know, not only do we have this hybrid model and this remote model to be crafting and doing professional development on, we're simultaneously creating a virtual model. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in later slides, so I won't spend too much time on that. Can I have the next slide, please? So let me talk a little bit about the definition of each. So I think people know, but it's worth repeating. The hybrid model is the model where students will come in either in the green or the wave cohort. These are not the students that are going to be totally remote. We're calling that program the virtual program. These are students that if you're in the green cohort, you're going to be in on Monday and Tuesday. And then the students in the wave cohort are going to be in on Thursday and Friday. And then the day in between, the day that the teacher doesn't have students, is the day that they're going to need to prepare for both. Because on the other days, they have students with them. And so therefore students, it's not a day off for the teachers. It's a bridge to get us to be able to handle both cohorts. So students in the green cohort who go Monday and Tuesday will have a remote learning program on Wednesday and Thursday. And the students in the wave will come Thursday and Friday, and they will have remote learning on the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And we're going to break that down more specifically a little later. I just want to say a couple of things about this because we had a number of good questions about this. People should know that there's an equal number of days in the school year between the green and the wave. Because if you take the Monday holidays and you couple those with the vacation period holidays or days off, it comes out even in the end. So there's not an advantage to time on learning being in one or the other. The other thing that's going to be coming up, and hopefully at our next school committee meeting, is I'm going to be asking the committee to move what half days we will keep for professional development to Wednesdays. So that doesn't negatively impact either cohort in terms of the time that they're coming into school. Can I have the next slide, please? Oh, wait, sorry. Before you do that, I'm sorry, Rich. Most importantly here, I started answering questions before I even addressed one of the most important elements on this slide, is that Wednesday, September 16th is the start of school. So during this week, because it's a half week, we're gonna bring the green cohort into school, and that's going to be more of an orientation for them. I say that that day is going to be more of an orientation because truly the first days of school are going to be an orientation for everybody. But this is a week that we want to split it up so that we expose both groups to what this program looks like. So this week provides us that on Wednesday, the green cohort can come in. On Thursday, the wave cohort can come in. And on Friday, we can do the remote learning. So really all three of those days can be an orientation day for both, or orientation days that week for both groups, if that makes sense. And then, can I have the next slide, please? The following week, we'll get into that regular routine that I described earlier that I won't repeat, with between the green and the wave and finding their schedules consistently throughout the hybrid learning schedule. And obviously if committee members, or if I'm missing something you think it's timely, just let me know in terms of the presentation. Obviously we're gonna answer questions also. I don't wanna go too quickly.
I'm just wondering if, I think I've heard a lot of people wondering if you applied for a cohort switch, when they might hear whether or not what cohort are they in finally?
I appreciate the question. So we've got so many requests that what we're hoping tomorrow or the next day, we would be able to get messages to people Tuesday or Wednesday in terms of which cohort they're in. One of the challenges has been just the sheer number of requests. And what's happened is, if you're a family that has children at multiple school buildings, It may be easy to make the switch at one building, but not another. For example, our high school is the most complex because we need to make sure that our students get the most competitive program of studies to meet whatever their graduation requirement is. And so that's not just checking, are you green or are you wave, but are you able to access those classes at the right time and the right day? And that's across a 7-period day. So there's literally a domino effect. And the most important thing was to keep families together. Even if there are different last names in that family, to make sure that we keep all those siblings going on the same days. And then the next order of priority were those daycare situations. And fortunately or unfortunately, at the elementary level, those are a little more easy to accommodate. If you don't have a lot of families are relying, I'm afraid, on older siblings to help provide daycare for their younger siblings. And so on one hand, it's more complicated to fulfill those high school schedules. On the other hand, if you don't have an older high school student in your household, it's easier to fulfill those schedule changes. So hopefully we were able to accommodate as many people as possible. But I know that we're not going to be able to accommodate everybody. So probably more of an answer than you wanted, Jackie, but I wanted to explain some of the intricacies for people because I would imagine for the community, it's very frustrating. They're trying to arrange daycare and they just want to know.
Yeah, and I know that some districts, we're being generous because some districts, the cohort is the cohort without any switching. So I know this is a big undertaking, and I can say I appreciate you guys trying to make it work. I think at this point, families probably just are anxious to find out which cohort it is, like with finality, so that they can go ahead and make those final plans. So you think maybe this week, to Tuesday, Wednesday?
I'm hoping tomorrow or Wednesday.
Okay, great, thank you.
Could I have the next slide, please? So the virtual academy schedule. So obviously school begins on Wednesday, September 16th. Those students will be fully remote beginning that day. And Friday, all days will be remote for that virtual academy. So it begins on the 16th, and then we're just going to, those students will continue to stay remote and be virtual.
Peter, just a funny question for you. Is there significance to Friday, September 18th? Like, because aren't these people remote all the time?
They are.
So, okay, Felicia has
why I stalled. Go ahead, Felicia.
Sorry, thank you. The significance at the elementary level is there won't be any direct instruction for the virtual academy on that Friday. And on Wednesdays at the elementary level, there won't be direct instruction because that's a planning day for the virtual teachers as well as the hybrid teachers so that they can be on the same page for curriculum and instruction. And for the secondary level on Friday, the first week, and Wednesdays, the other weeks, that will be when they will get direct instruction. And there'll be more details on that, direct in-person instruction. There'll be more details on that on later slides.
Okay. So for families who are listening, because this makes sense to me, but I'm just clarifying and tell me if I'm getting it right. So for students who have chosen to basically be enrolled in all remote learning this school year, and they can opt in at different times, we'll talk more about that. They are at home receiving direct instruction mostly, but not on Friday the 18th. They'll be getting some type of like independent work, and the same would be true on any Wednesday going forward.
At the elementary level.
At the elementary level, got it.
Correct.
Do I dare ask what happens at the middle or high school level in virtual? Will we get to that in virtual
Yes.
academy?
Slides, yeah, subsequent
Yep.
slides will describe that. No, thank you for pointing that out. Rich, could I have the next slide, please? So moving between the learning models. You can always move to the virtual academy from the hybrid. However, if you're going to move from the virtual back into the hybrid, if you're going to come from the totally remote, the totally virtual academy and come back into the hybrid, what we're going to do is hold people till the Thanksgiving break, the February break, and the April break. And we ask that you give us, there are dates that we're going to publish for this. We ask that you give us a 2-week lead time so that we can move you back in. The reason for this is because we need to have some continuity and consistency in all of the programs for students. So if we just had people coming and going as they wanted, you could see how disruptive that would be for the students, especially in the hybrid. They'd have to pump the brakes and continually reacclimate somebody who's moving from the virtual into the hybrid. So there is a remote chance, or there's a possibility that our students that are in the hybrid model, that we would have to reshuffle and reorganize based on the movement out of the hybrid model. Let me give you an example. Basically, our current hybrid models have between about 12 students, let's call it, coming in each day, either in the green or the wave. If we had a number of students in one grade or another migrate out, and let's say that number in a grade went down to 5 students in the green or the wave, and then those students go someplace, they go to the virtual model. Let's say we had 50 or 60 students in the virtual model. That's more than we want to have with the teacher in terms of being able to meet their needs. So there is the potential that at some point in the year, we would have to reorganize our teachers and send a teacher who was teaching in the hybrid model out and ask them to teach those virtual students. Because we have the same number of students in the system under the different models, we can't just hire more teachers to cover those students that are learning virtually, and then or hire brand new teachers to teach those students to replace that teacher in the hybrid model. So we've got to cover these different learning models with the same number of people we have. So we have built some things into the system to be buffers for that. But truly, this is a year that we're going to have to be flexible and do the best that we can with the resources that we have. Our infrastructure wasn't built to accommodate all needs the way we do if we were all in person in a pandemic. So we hope that this doesn't happen, but I've tried to explain how it could happen. The other way it could potentially happen is, if we had a staff member who was ill, they're not going to be able to come to school for any number of reasons, or they could have a family member of their own that was ill, and they're not going to be able to come to school because they're taking care of a family member. That's another scenario where we would have to replace teachers or students would have to perhaps change teachers in the hybrid model.
Peter,
Yes.
what might be helpful as you're talking, I'm thinking about this. I'm not sure that, and I know we're touching on this in future slides, but should we maybe mention where the virtual academy staffing, how we get the teacher to begin with, so that it makes sense as to why we would pull a hybrid teacher out?
Yes, appreciate that question. It'll make it clearer for people. Our virtual academy is made up of Abington teachers. It is something that, and we're going to talk more about what the virtual academy looks like in subsequent slides. But in order to staff that, we just posted at the end of last week for our teachers to apply to become teachers in the virtual model, in the virtual academy. So tomorrow and Wednesday, we're going to be very quickly trying to put together who will be teaching in that program, because literally teachers had the weekend to decide if they wanted to participate in that or not. And that's one of the many things that's delaying telling parents who their teachers are. And I just want to tell people that the state of Massachusetts didn't give us what the requirements or even what Massachusetts would do to help us with this totally virtual academy until the middle of August. So we've been working on is working the problem, negotiating, trying to put this model together, knowing that both Abington teachers and Abington families wanted Abington teachers to be running this virtual academy. So over 2 weeks, we put it together. We think we have a model that will be successful. We're going to talk about it in later slides. I want people to go into it with their eyes open and know what the positives and negatives are and the potentials are.
Peter, can I just add that, just to kind of put a point on that, is if there were 6 fourth grade sections in a full environment, or last year, there'll be 1 less sections going into this coming school year because one of those sections will become the virtual academy. So if there were 6 sections last year, there'll be 5 in-person hybrid and 1 virtual, and that'll make the 6.
And the fear is that, or the danger is that we get a number of students, because we have to accommodate them to go from the hybrid to the virtual, that we have to increase a class that's virtual, and we would have to take away from that hybrid in order to do that.
Yeah, and that was something we talked about at length. That was sort of an eye-opening moment, I think, for even committee members to be like, wait, what? But when you think about financially, it's not like there's money available should we have more kids that decide to go remote for us to hire additional staff. So we felt like it was important to kind of put it out there that you're going to get these teacher assignments. We're going to hope that everything goes as planned, but there's a lot of moving parts that we just feel like the community should kind of be aware of.
And I think we're up for the next slide, please. Felicia.
Yes, thank you. And this is a review of some of what Peter talked about, that there's a green cohort that beginning after the first week will be going in person Monday and Tuesday, remote Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and the wave cohort will be remote Monday, Tuesday, and in person on Thursday and Friday. And I just wanted again to highlight, and we talked about this before, students with complex and significant needs will be prioritized for in-person learning for 4 days, up to 4 days. And if your student has been designated as high needs, you would have already been notified by the Department of Student Services. Next slide, please. Again, this is some review, and then there'll be new material. But in the hybrid model, new curriculum will be introduced during in-person days, and students will apply what they've learned during the in-person days when they're doing their remote days. Students will not have live or synchronous instruction on their remote days. So they'll have live instruction in the days that they're in person, and then they'll be engaging with the material that was provided, or the new curriculum that was provided during the in-person days on the remote days. Teachers will review all work that is completed during both in-person and remote days, and students will be graded on the work that's completed. And as we talked about previously, all students, regardless of green or wave or the virtual academy, will, except for secondary, will engage in remote learning on Wednesdays.
Felicia, hang here for just a sec.
Sure.
I'm wondering if people might be wondering, it just dawned on me at this slide. So both virtual academy students and hybrid students have a similar Wednesday where they are what I kind of think of as like independent practice. They're not live with a teacher, and they're doing work that's been prepared for them. But in the hybrid model, on Thursdays and Fridays, there'll be no opportunity for live instruction, but the hybrid students will have videos and things that'll have been developed on that Wednesday that they'll see in Thursday and Friday, right? Like they're not, did we talk about that? Are they going to see some type of pre-recorded teaching that occurs on Thursday, Friday?
They may have asynchronous lessons that are developed on the remote days, but that won't be the primary mode of instruction on those days or work on those days. That answer your question?
Yeah, I'm thinking a little bit about, yes, it answers my question. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Next slide, please. We also thought that with school beginning in approximately 2 weeks, it was really important to kind of paint a picture of what the student's life would be in the hybrid model and in the virtual academy model, so that there are no surprises for families that have chosen either hybrid or the virtual academy. So I have some information that most have been reviewed prior, but we just want to make sure that we're clear. So masks will be required for all staff and students in grades K through 12. Pre-K students will be encouraged to wear a mask. That's all students grades K through 12. Students will have assigned seats in classrooms, at lunch, and on the school bus. And that's to assist with contact tracing should there be a COVID positive within the school or within a classroom. We'll be able to identify who those students are that were close contacts with a COVID positive person. So close contact is someone who has been within 6 feet for more than 10 minutes. And by having assigned seats, we'll be able to better determine that. Student desks will be situated in rows facing forward or facing one direction with a minimum of 3 feet distance chair edge to chair edge. With the hybrid model and having fewer students, therefore having fewer students within each classroom, we can maximize the amount of space between student desks and chairs. And in all cases, the distance is greater than 3 feet. And in many cases, the distance is 6 feet, but not all cases. More than 3 always, and many times at 6 feet. In classrooms, in elementary classrooms especially, it will look extremely different than it did when we left on March 12th. Such items as rugs, soft or alternative seating, reading nooks, etc., have been removed from the classrooms in order to provide greater spacing. And because we wouldn't, in rugs, for example, be having meetings with students sitting side by side or in a circle on the rug. At the elementary level, students will not have desks assigned to them. If there's 12 people in the green cohort and 12 people in the wave cohort, students in the wave cohort, there'll be 12 desks in the classroom. So students in the green cohort would share their desk with the students in the wave cohort. And the elementary principals have worked to provide such items as bins for each student to be assigned to so that they'll be able to leave their materials in the classroom. Students at the secondary level that change classes each period will have their desks cleaned or their desks will be cleaned between class before the next cohort comes into that classroom. Students will be able to drink water from a water bottle in their classroom, and instructions will be provided by their teacher on how to safely do that. And water fountains have been disabled throughout the district, but our bottle filling stations are operational. Are there any questions? Next slide, please. Mask breaks at all levels have been scheduled minimally with an AM break and a PM break. Plus lunchtime is also a time that obviously students can take off their masks. They'll be seated minimally 6 feet apart at lunch times. Recess may also constitute a mask break. However, activities done during recess must include students remaining a minimum of 6 feet apart if they are unmasked. And every effort will be used to use outside spaces of the building for breaks, for meals, and for instruction when it's appropriate. And I would just add to make sure, you probably hear my dog barking, just add that make sure students have suitable clothing. In other years when it may have been chilly to be outside for recess, it'll be important for our students to go outside to have the mask break. So we'll be encouraging suitable clothing throughout the school year. This hybrid change request, go back to the earlier question, families should be notified or will be notified this Tuesday or Wednesday. And like Peter described, the difficulty with making class assignments with cohort changes, and then the virtual academy, it means that we won't be able to get teacher assignments out and student schedules out as early as we would have liked to, but they'll be released no later than Friday, September 11th.
Alicia, I have a question about the recess.
Sure.
So it says here that the students will remain a minimum of 6 feet if they're unmasked outside. So if they're masked, are they closer, or can they be closer, or they still have to remain 6 feet?
So recesses, we anticipate being used as a mask break. It's another time for students to take their masks off. So they would be at 6 feet. If they're not, if they're masked, they still have to stay 3 feet apart. So we're not kind of gone are the days of, at least for right now, of students all sitting in a tight circle, chatting or walking. So students will need to be 6 feet apart.
Hey, Felicia,
Yes.
on that last one, hopefully I know it'll be that week. Hopefully it's before the Friday, because then you're talking parents not possibly finding out till, I don't know, mail system too. So I guess my question is, it's going to be at least, and I don't remember, so I don't really know how middle school and high school worked, but for elementary school, it was done by mailings. Is that still going to be the case? I guess what grades are going to get it in the mail? What grades can find it online?
I actually don't know the answer to that question.
I believe we're,
Alicia,
Yep.
yeah,
I can answer that for the elementary.
thank goodness.
Thank you.
So we are currently going through Aspen, our student data management system, to make sure every family has an email address included in Aspen. We will, when the middle school and high school allow parents to see their schedule and teacher assignments via the portal in Aspen, the elementary schools will be sending an email through Aspen to our families, notifying them of their teachers. Anyone who we don't have an email for will get a phone call, because to Chris's point, if we sent postcards on the 11th, they probably wouldn't get them until after the 16th.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
You're welcome.
So is the middle school, and I know this isn't necessarily, maybe you know it, but does that mean like grades 5 and up, you'll be able to see it on Aspen?
I believe so.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I didn't have the early elementary that believe that 5 through 12 can see it on Aspen.
Okay.
One of the challenges, though, is not sure that the 5th grade parents are as versed with that system.
They're not.
So we're going to have to send out videos on how to best use it. Or there's Matt. Maybe he can help us.
Yep, I've been lucky enough to be unmuted, so I can answer that question for you. 6 through 8 obviously spent all last year, and probably grade 5 accessing Canvas online. So we will be sending home directions to parents and families that talk about how to get on the portal. It's very similar to logging into Canvas if they had done that last year. And then for anyone having difficulty, we'll instruct them to give us a call and get them an alternate way to get their assignment so that they have it in time.
Thanks, everyone.
Matt, don't shoot the messenger here. I just have, would it be, maybe it's too much work, but is it hard to take the email? Like, could we email to 5th grade their assignments, just where we have a whole grade level of parents and children who don't know? Or is that like a lot of additional, I don't know how the system works.
Nope, Jackie, I can talk to Chris and see what they're doing at Beaverbrook. It's not something that we had looked at, but I don't see how it would be a giant problem for us to do that.
I'm just thinking, I'm thinking of last 2 years ago when I was entering, well, not me, but when my daughter was entering fifth, I had no idea about any of the online programs. So I don't know if there's other parents with that their oldest child entering fifth that may just be easier in these crazy times to get an email that says your teacher is X. I don't know, just a suggestion.
Sure. We actually released information the same way last year. We did also send cards last year to make sure we hit both angles. So I can't speak to the success rate of parents logging into the portal in grade 5 specifically last year. So we'll provide what we need to make sure that they get the same information at the same amount of time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? Next slide, please. I just wanted to talk a little bit about meals and lunches and how they're going to operate in our schools. Bernie Darcy, the food service director, has been working all summer in developing a model that students won't have to be standing in the long lunch line to receive their meals. However, there won't be the opportunity for options in our schools as we've had in the past. There'll be one if not two meals that students can choose, and it will be a grab and go. And in each building, how they grab and go will be a little bit different. But just in terms of where lunches occur and where they'll be able to eat their lunches, at Beaver Brook, students will eat their lunches in the cafeteria in the gymnasium. In the Woodsdale, lunch will be eaten in classrooms and or outside designated areas when possible. At the Abington Middle School, lunch will be eaten in the cafeteria and in the seminar room. And in Abington High School, lunches will be eaten in the cafeteria and in the outside dining area when possible. We're also right now working through Mr. Darcy and the principals to develop a breakfast, how best to provide breakfast to our students. I will say that as we did when school closed last year, we will have an opportunity for those families that receive free and reduced lunch to pick up lunches for the days that their students won't be in school. So if, for example, a student is in the green cohort, there'll be an opportunity for them to pick up meals for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday on Wednesday. And if they're in the wave cohort, they'll be able to pick up meals for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday on Monday. And we're also looking at the possibility of giving breakfast for the 5 days so that we don't, because it'll be challenging to have a breakfast program as we've had in the past. Because of contact tracing and cafeteria use.
So two really important things here. One is just why are you doing that? If you look at the different schools, there are different scenarios laid out in each building. That's just a function of us following the rules and providing the distance that's required in order for the students to take down their mask and eat a lunch. Each of the building has a different physical layout, which is why we had to do this. And if you think about probably the most glaring differences are between the Beaver Brook and the Woodsdale, because the Beaver Brook has larger spaces than the Woodsdale has to be able to have lunches, but the Woodsdale classrooms are large enough to do it in the safest way, following the rules. And the other piece that came to mind is that drop off at school. When and I just want to make sure people hear that we're not going to be able to have students in earlier for those for the programs the way we did it before with breakfasts, because we need the supervision in place to be able to ensure that we keep our students at the appropriately supervised distances.
Thank you. Are there any, that's the end, that's the conclusion of the hybrid model description. Are there any questions at this point? You can also take questions obviously at the end.
I have a question. What about snack times at Beaverbrook and Woodsdale? Are they just eating in the classrooms?
At the Woodsdale, they're having snack in the classroom and in the cafeteria if it's available. Yeah, it's a scheduling and area issue. If they can have it in the cafeteria, they will, and if they can't, they'll be in the classroom. And at the Beaverbrook, Chris, did you want to speak
Sure.
to that?
Similarly to Woodsdale, Beaverbrook classrooms will eat their snack during a mask break, and that mask break may take place in the gym where the tables are set up, or the cafeteria, or possibly outside. And so in either case, if students eat snack inside in the cafeteria or the gym, the tables would be disinfected afterwards, and that's true at Woodsdale also.
Thank you. Sherry, the next slide is Dr. Fedorowicz.
Great, thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm going to talk about the Abington Virtual Academy. So the Virtual Academy is a different teaching and learning model in the hybrid, as Peter was talking about, and Felicia. The Virtual Academy is completely distance learning, where students learn from home as opposed to attending as part of a cohort in-person hybrid model. For the elementary school model, grades K through 6, we're confident that each grade level will have at least one full-time Abington teacher assigned. For example, a grade K teacher, a grade 1 teacher, and so on. If the Virtual Academy classes get to be around 50 students or above, then a hybrid teacher would move into the Virtual Academy as the second teacher. This means that if your student is in the hybrid model, they may be reassigned to a different hybrid teacher. During Virtual Academy, students will learn the core subjects of math, science, social studies, and reading, or English language arts, all from the Canvas learning platform. However, courses like physical education, music, art, and technology will not be assigned because of scheduling conflicts. If your child is in the Virtual Academy, they will be expected to participate and engage in live and synchronous instruction with their teacher through Microsoft Teams. This will predominantly be in the form of morning meetings or homeroom, small group content instruction, and whole class check-ins during the day. In addition to the live sessions, students are expected to work independently on their work and partake in asynchronous or some pre-recorded lessons if possible. The Virtual Academy follows closely to a regular school day hours as if the school were in session. Next slide, please. In the Virtual Academy, grades 7 through 12, in the Virtual Academy, grades 7 through 12 is also offered, but it has a little bit of a different learning model. Because at the secondary level, curriculum instruction is more specialized by content area, an Abington hybrid teacher could take on the virtual course and provide instruction in specific courses. For example, if your child's in grade 10, they would have different teachers teaching different core subject areas. The requirements and expectations for the Virtual Academy for secondary are to have students engage in one 45-minute synchronous or live session per course or per area per week. All of the live lessons will occur on Wednesdays. This means that your child will have one full day of live synchronous learning on Wednesdays with back-to-back live sessions in different subject areas. Wednesday is a full day of synchronous or live learning. The remaining days of Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday will be asynchronous and independent. No direct instruction will occur during the week except for Wednesdays. However, there may be brief live check-ins in the morning or the afternoon. And there will also, in some cases, be office hours. Next slide, please. Again, as with elementary students, only core subject areas will be provided to the Virtual Academy students at the secondary level with the addition of Spanish. Certain advanced courses, such as some advanced placement, could potentially be offered through Virtual High School. Virtual High School is external to Abington and would not be taught by an Abington teacher. Teachers and students will use Canvas as the primary means of accessing curriculum instruction, progress monitoring, assessments, and feedback. And Microsoft Teams will be used for the live meetings again. Any questions on the virtual academy? Okay, thank you.
So on the next slide, I get another chance at reporting out on the schedule. Hopefully, people will be aware that on the 16th, the virtual academy begins in the green hybrid reports. On the 17th, the wave hybrid reports. On the 18th, it's all hybrid. All students will attend school remotely. And then starting on the 21st, we get into the usual rotation between the green and the wave, the Monday, Tuesday green, and the Thursday, Friday wave, with that Wednesday being that bridge day in between the two groups. When the committee is ready, I've got some things just to keep you informed about on the horizon, but I want to really pause and take some time to talk through or answer questions that remain for people. Our goal is to be completely transparent with people so they know what we know they can anticipate and what we know the potential things for us to try to be flexible with in the future and why those are things to be potentially flexible with in the future.
I wish I knew more about the high school. I don't have any children that attend, so I'm hoping that what was presented for the virtual academy makes sense for people. I don't know, Danielle, does that seem like that makes sense to you? I know you have the high school perspective.
Yeah, it would be really hard. There's no one teacher who would be able to cover the needs of all of the students because of the wide range of courses and levels that the kids are in. So everything did make sense. It would be really hard to get enough teachers to teach both in hybrid and in the virtual classroom and keep it within the Abington Public Schools. So doing the back-to-back classes synchronously on Wednesdays, and then the other days, that's the only day that Abington teachers would be able to jump in and fill that spot. So they'd be teaching the hybrid cohorts on the Monday and Tuesday, and then the Thursday and Friday, and then jumping in on top of that on Wednesdays to help out with or to teach in the virtual academy. So it's super complicated, but that does all make sense.
Thanks. I was finding it complicated to follow, but I wasn't sure if it's just because I don't have the context. So it makes me feel better to know that makes sense to you.
Yeah, unlike at the elementary levels, we can't just pull. The teachers will be needed to do both. So we can't pull a teacher to take care of everybody's needs.
Got it. Thank you.
I just have a question. You know, I emailed Jonathan earlier just to talk a little bit about the AP classes at the high school level, but I'm just trying to understand. So if you're a virtual academy student, there's a chance that maybe AP classes are not offered for you, or we're looking into options for them.
If Jonathan is available, could
Mr.
Bourne answer that question?
Sure. So the question about, if I'm hearing it correctly, is about the availability of AP courses for virtual students.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, if you can speak to, you know, in person as well at the hybrid model, like that they'll be offered as well. You can maybe just highlight both.
The hybrid model, absolutely. If we're offering the same AP courses as if we were in full pre-COVID live sessions, the face of those courses would change, obviously, in that you're not having the same meeting times pre-COVID, right? Like that's the difference. We will attempt to match students' AP course requests with what is offered and available for virtual high school. but it is not always, apples to apples. There's some low incidence AP courses for the virtual. For example, 1 or 2 students that would be part of a larger class if they came live. We may look to do virtual high school. And as Ms. Federo had said, that would not be an Abington educator. If there were enough students to validate a virtual AP course, it could be something we looked at. Although I will say that's probably an extra challenge to deliver AP curriculum 45 minutes a week and the rest being independent work.
So just in terms of terms, and we're confusing things with our terms because we have a virtual academy and then there's a virtual high school. VHS is a virtual high school program where we've purchased seats probably for the last decade, where, we've had students take macro and microeconomics. And we may have, 2 students that want to take macro or micro. And so we can't assign a teacher to those programs because there are 25 to 30 other kids that need a course offering at Abington High School. So we've traditionally, and maybe it's been even longer than 10 years, assigned those students into a virtual high school, a VHS. And we've had success with that. So those students that take that VHS program, if we can't offer those through the virtual school, historically, I'll just speak historically for Abington, they've had every opportunity to get a 5 on the AP exam when they've taken those classes successfully. I didn't say everybody's gotten a 5, but I've heard, depending on the class, that people have, enjoyed those classes. Those are taught by teachers that teach AP, credited through the College Board.
Great. Thank you.
Welcome.
Am I giving people a ton of feedback again? Okay.
No,
No, you're okay.
it's just awkward silence.
It's usually because I've blown the presentation. And
Are there more slides, Peter? I have a couple questions. I don't know if this was it.
this was it.
Okay. Do you want to, or maybe you were planning to do this, there's some things going through my brain that I know are coming up in relation to our first day where students or parents would be driving kids to school would be September 16th. Oh, do we meet again before that date?
So we will. And so, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't tell people what we know tonight. I was going to ask the committee if I could get time with them to have an executive session to potentially talk about an MOA next week. And then I'm hoping on the 9th or the 10th to be able to ask for consideration of that MOA. Again, that's all pending the collective bargaining process with the association. And I don't know, I'm just going to say this again. I appreciate the work that the association has done with us. And today was such a great day because teachers have been away from school for 5.5 months themselves. They've been working and they've been in and out of school doing different things. I mean, we had 40 people do professional development this summer on their own time. They volunteered, but it was just so good to see people around the district. So we hope that we'd be able to bring an MOU to the committee.
Peter, can I interrupt for 1 second? Is it appropriate to ask for those listening who don't know what those letters represent, what an MOA and an MOU are?
Yeah, I apologize. A memorandum of understanding. And so when you are potentially changing the working conditions of individuals, you've got to negotiate the impact on those conditions. And that MOU is a memorandum of understanding between both parties of what those changes will be. And so
The union and the Abington Education Association Union and the school committee, right?
Right.
Not with individuals.
Correct.
Right.
And we're hopeful that we'll be able to bring something for the committee to consider toward the end of next week.
I would guess I would add as part of the work that the Abington Education Association has done, and part of this negotiation work is I was part of a tour on Friday, the Abington Public Schools administration, some representation from the teachers union, and I was able to join as a school committee member. We did walk through every building, each of the schools, and look at the setup. And they had some really good questions. They're being really thoughtful about making sure that the buildings and the conditions meet both the students' needs and the needs and worries that the teachers have. Peter, no, Felicia, like I was emotional at the first sight. It was hard. It was hard to see the building redesigned and set up the way in the new normal, but by the last, by the fourth school or fourth site, I felt like maybe I'd either just hit acceptance or I think we all sort of could see how this maybe could work. So I thought it helped me to see the schools, and it would be better to see the kids in them, but that's part of our work that we've been doing too.
And although we've done a lot of planning and digesting all these guidelines, it is healthiest for us to listen to our practitioners say, well, what about this? Well, what about that? Can we do this? Can we do that? So a lot of those discussions are going to take place over the next professional development days, because we need their eye on this, because it not only creates the safest environment, but it's the way to create the safest environment and still have the best for our kids.
So hiccup, I guess the question is, if we are going to meet again before the 16th and we can table some of the, I know that I'm just thinking from a parent's shoes, they're going to want to know about any changes in arrival or dismissal or anything else that we would need people to know if we're not coming back together before the 16th.
So absolutely, I'll need to ask the committee to come back before the 16th to, thinking optimistically, to consider a memorandum of understanding, an MOU. We're going to need to consider a policy on masks. I should mention that what we're looking to do is for parents to know, and this will be a relief to many people, we're going to have kindergartners through grade 12 with masks. We're going to include kindergarten and grade 1 in the suggested, in the recommended mask policy to the committee. I can anticipate that. We perhaps will have a code of conduct for online learning. I need to ask the committee to consider the process for parents to opt out of their children using hand sanitizers. I imagine that, you know, out of 100 students, the vast majority, there won't be a problem, but we may have students with sensitive allergies or skin conditions that a parent would want to request that they don't use hand sanitizers. We're actually required to do that. We also need to ask the committee to consider the opportunity for our virtual students to play sports. The MIAA and the South Shore are looking to postpone, but slowly bring back some of the sports. And if that happens, will our virtual students be allowed to play? I have a suggested policy for that for our committee to consider. And then we also have budget information. It's anticipated we're going to have an October town meeting, and we'll have more information on the budget and the budget process, I hope. I know that the town manager plans to go to the finance committee soon with a plan with some of our increased revenue for Abington to be able to keep the ship right in the right, sailing in the right way.
The only other thing I can think of, and Mr. McCurt and I were having this conversation Friday, and it just made me think of this for people who are listening. He said, you know, oh, that'll be coming out via email, or that information will be coming out. And it just reminded me how much stuff gets buried in my own email that especially like Abington Public Schools, but I think parents, all of that handbook information, anything that, I think that your parent emails are going to be important in the next few weeks is just my sense. And maybe if there's any way to share it in other formats besides email, even if you, I don't know, your school Facebook page or through the Abington Public Schools main page, But I think there's a lot more of that nitty-gritty detail stuff that might be coming out, right?
Yeah, and I know Dr. Fedora is helping us put together an FAQ. And so what we could do is try to set a page up with some of the things that we've already published, sort of curate it so there's an archive along with the FAQ.
Are we okay with taking down the presentation, or should I leave it up? Or should Rich leave it up? I didn't know if we were gonna go back to some slides.
I'm good.
I'm good.
All right, Rich. Thank you.
I just have one question. So I just want to make sure I understand right. So the green cohort will start on Wednesday and the wave starts remotely on Wednesday. So like, how will they know what to do if they haven't like been in the classroom yet first? I'm just trying to understand, like, so you'll have a day of school, but you haven't been in school yet. I mean, I'm just trying to understand, like, instead of like just having the green starts on Wednesday, the wave starts on Thursday, then everyone's remote, but those opposite kids are going to be remote on the days, but they haven't been in school yet. Like, how will they know what to do or how to log in or do anything? Like, how?
It's going to be a struggle. And it's another reason for us to do it that way with a 1 in and 1 out day quickly so we can get people acclimated.
Okay. No, okay. So
Lisa, I'm kind of wondering though that I didn't even consider that idea. Maybe it messes up our day count, our 1 8 or however many days. It would probably mess us up. Julie, anybody? I don't know. But
Yes,
it might.
That's
is
correct.
that what happened?
Yeah. So thank you. I would anticipate that in emails that go to families that are in the wave cohort, for example, that would be remote the first day. They'll be logging in for. I wouldn't anticipate a full day of direct instruction on that first wave.
Okay.
If you're a wave on Wednesday, but there'll be login instructions. Students can go to Canvas. They can look at how that's set up. Maybe I could anticipate some mini assignments being on there, but I wouldn't anticipate a full day of instruction on that, on the green or the wave remote days that first week. Those are more the orientation to the platform. Friday being everyone is going to be remote, and there'll be more. I would anticipate activities through Canvas, meeting with your whole class, the green and the wave cohorts, everyone that's assigned to that teacher. And then Monday the 21st being the first full week of, you're in Monday and Tuesday, you're remote Monday and Tuesday of instruction. But that's a great question.
And it's
So
precisely why we need to chop it up the way we did with 1 day, rather than waiting a whole other week, because the green cohort would spend 3 days without any contact or orientation.
I think though, to Lisa's point, if you're like
a wave
if you're a wave first grader or
Yep.
a wave kindergartner or even a wave second grader, you've never met your teacher and you're just going to log on Thursday. I'm wondering, and maybe the answer is no, but
Wednesday, right? Wednesday.
on Wednesday the green goes and they're going to get full, they're going to see their teacher.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So wave cohort on Wednesday.
I'm wondering, and I know how jam-packed those first however many days of school are, so maybe the answer is no, but I'm wondering if on Tuesday, the 15th, if there's any time in the day that teachers could reach out to the wave cohort and just, even if it's like a little meeting with the wave cohort or something, a 10-minute meeting, or like share their screen and say, this is how when we get together, this is how we're going to do it. Or else maybe there needs to be really specific instructions coming out of the elementary. I'm not really worried about the older kids, Lisa. Like, don't you think they know how to?
Yeah,
That's
the elementary.
a great idea.
I can say that we haven't set a date and time yet, but we have talked about virtual open houses that would be each classroom. And part of that would be exactly what and Jackie are talking about, where the teacher would acclimate the parents to what the expectation is and how to access things. But still, to Felicia's point, those first Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they're all going to be orientation type activities.
Yeah, I think until Lisa said it, and we've gone over every detail, like more times, I dream the details at night, but I had never considered that one, Lisa, that for the younger kids who are in the WAVE cohort, because they will have to start on a computer before they meet their teacher,
Right.
that could be problematic for young ones who don't know, like, what are you even talking about? Where do I go? So
Right.
maybe we think about that a little bit.
But yeah, that's why our expectation is that, some kind of virtual open house or one-to-one meeting would take place with teacher and especially the WAVE students, but also the green students, to show them, here's what you do. And then on that first day, as Felicia said, the expectation for them would really be log in, and maybe they're going to type in their name. Maybe they're going to click on something and watch a message from the teacher, something very simple to get started as we sort of move them along the continuum to remote learning.
Just one other thing I'm thinking of as you're talking. So the support staff at the elementary, like someone like me who's a reading specialist, I will not have kids on day one of when school opens. I would be a good person for my email to be available, for example, for parents to email me and say, I have a second grader in Mrs. So-and-so's class and I can't get on Mr. Bosta's website or whatever, that maybe we could pull in anyone who might have a little extra flexibility in that for that first short half week to see, because I just, until you said it, Lisa, I don't want people to be panicked that I can picture it like being all excited to log in and meet your teacher and having technical difficulties. So. Just because not everyone might attend the open house, like the remote open house.
Right. And we will also by then already have the paraprofessionals assigned for remote check-ins. So each classroom would have a second staff member who would be available on those first remote days for assistance.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter, can I go back to the special ed part of it? I know it was just like a quick bullet. I'm probably going to ask Dr. Robbins to jump in. I know it was and we've gone. I know we've gone over it before, but the term was it was complex and significant. Maybe were the terms that were used for what drove further in-person learning. James, I didn't know if you could maybe. I know it's only, there's no set definition. There's no line in the sand, but maybe if it's possible to go over some of the thought process that went into determining who those students were, so people could understand why their child may or may not have gotten a phone call from you.
Oh, totally. You can hear me?
Yes.
This is good. All right, cool. Yeah. So by the way, there is actually a special ed presentation planned after this, where I would go over this in context, and I still will. But Chris, to get to your question at the moment, so Desi's laid out pretty clear guidelines to make this determination about who among our special ed population is eligible for should be prioritized for in-person services. In other words, more services during the week. So right off the bat, what they say is any preschool age student with a disability ought to be prioritized for more in-person instruction. So as such, the preschool will be running almost as it usually does, of course, with all these health and safety measures in place, just with the difference that we're doing 4 days instead of 5 days. So that's item number one. Item number two is a high level of service need. And so that's kind of like broad and vague. And so what they mean by that is technically, essentially what the services are like on a student's IEP plan. So the way they laid it out is, like, for example, a student who spends more than 75% of their school day outside of the gen ed environment. Another thing that indicates like a high level of service need is a combination of services from special educators and related service providers that all need to be kind of provided outside of the classroom. Another benchmark that they've given is students who are just truly incapable of engaging in remote learning due to disability-related needs. So that makes it a little gray and fuzzy. And a lot of parents who are listening may just feel like, hey, that you just described my kid. So what we'll be doing in a lot of those cases is this year, as we've been talking about, we're going to have so much more structure than we had from March until June to be able to support kids. So there might be some kids who, because of their level of service need, aren't picked up right away. But we'll be monitoring to see how they go through all this. And if we're having those same difficulties that may have come up in like from the March to June phase, we may find that they are now eligible for in-person services.
Okay, so it can be it can slide throughout the year. Okay.
Right, because something, and this is something that we've been wrestling with, even up until this day, including just a few hours ago, we're talking about a case where it's just essentially like, okay, this seems to meet some of these criteria, but not totally. Do we, should we bring the student in now and therefore dilute our services a little bit because our service providers spread a little bit more thin? And then, introduce another body in the room because again, everything's about health and safety. Or do we take a more cautious approach and say, you know what, you haven't met that service need quite yet. Let's see how a few weeks play out and perhaps we can revisit.
Okay.
And Chris, just so I finish my answer a little bit, just some other factors that would make one eligible would be because the dual identification is both a kid with disabilities and an English learner. And also we're prioritizing students who are homeless.
Just confirming the question asked, when does pre-K start? It starts, and confirmed by Laura Monachino, it starts on the 16th of September.
As does kindergarten.
That's everything.
And Chris, I'll give a little bit more information to anyone who might be listening. Is that, so DESE lays out this criteria, but there's also just a bit of local discretion too. So there are some instances where Abington's had to make some decisions. And in those instances, I think we've been more, from my assessment, and I could lay it out case by case, but I think we've been more generous than DESE's guidance would suggest. So for example, whereas they might say a student would need 75% of their day outside of the general education room, we've taken kids where it might have been 50% or so because our programming really emphasizes inclusion, but we still see them as a high needs kid.
Can I ask one more question?
As many as you want.
This is the big question of the hour. It's the toughest question. Are you ready? School supplies. So we are dying. Kids are dying to get school supplies. This is like all the rage. I did tell the people in my house that they have to reuse the ones that they left within March, but that didn't go over well. So is there a way that schools could post maybe, I don't even know if we would need what we normally need. And I know there's like lists out there, like teacher lists that have been posted, but it would be helpful maybe to others if each school on the school Facebook page or through email, constant contact, whatever, would write what you would like children to have by grade level. And people love to buy school supplies.
So Jackie, I can answer for Beaverbrook and Woodsdale for sure. We do have grade level supply lists already on our school websites. And as things become more solidified with the negotiations, each school, at least Woodsdale and Beaverbrook, and the other principals can answer for their schools, will be sending out and posting on our websites a comprehensive document for parents that updates them on all the details that you were asking about earlier, including arrival and dismissal times. Our times aren't changing, but there'll be waves of kids coming and going. We'll try to address all the detailed questions that parents need to know, but that we have to wait until the MOA is a little bit more solid before we send that out.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I think the parents, some of the changes that parents, again, depended on negotiations. I know if in my house, like the minutes matter for work in the morning. So some schools would be open. If you got in the line at this time, you could unload a child. And some of that will be changing because of the way we have to do safety. So I think the sooner, and I know our hands are tied at the moment, but that information will be coming out. And I did see the list about school supplies for like 4th grade, for example, and it looked like a lot of stuff that they've needed in the past. So I just didn't know if we would still need all that stuff only being in school 2 days a week. So maybe if maybe teachers have already checked and rechecked, but are you saying that those are final and people should start to buy what's on those lists?
Yes, they can. And the difference this year is that there will be no community supplies. Anything that a student comes in with will be dedicated for their own use. And earlier, Felicia mentioned it would be in a bin or a basket or a bag with their name on it, and it wouldn't be commingled with any other supplies.
And when you say the school website, do you mean if I go to Abington Public Schools and click on Beaverbrook's page, I'd find the school supply list?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and if it looks like Abington Preschool will have a similar document with school supplies and information with individualized buckets of supplies and all that too. So that'll all be coming out. Awesome. Guys, thank you.
I know also kids are already wearing masks at different times when they're out with their parents. I just, consider, we've been wearing them quite a bit. These surgical masks that have the loops, that they're just more comfortable. People may want to at least be thinking about what types of masks they're going to be sending their students with. Me, 2-ply or these surgical masks with these loops for breathing seem more comfortable and certainly fit the mask requirement.
So Rich invited me to unmute, and we probably already covered it, but I figured I'd say hi since I'm unmuted. And also just to say at the pre-K level, we are asking that parents send in a backup mask or 2 to have in the backpack or in whatever they're sending in, just in case there's need for more than 1 mask during the course of the day. But that will come out in the document that outlines all the things that we will be needing.
Thank you, Laura. I know actually when we walked through with Sarah LaPointe, one of the nurses at Abington High School, she suggested that all students pre-K to 12 bring more than 1 mask to school should mask get soiled or uncomfortable. There will be masks, the paper surgical type masks available at the schools for students who forget their masks, but the primary mask should be coming from home.
I think Wendy needs to be unmuted.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Does anyone have any other questions? I just want to say too that last week there was an email that went out for anybody K through 6 that would be in need of a computer or a laptop. So that was out last week, and today an update on the professional development and what teachers would be doing first couple of weeks before the kids go back to school officially. And also an email was sent today for, what was the other email? Oh, the freshman orientation. So there's a freshman orientation coming up on the 10th, and that will be from 4 to 7. So there's a form on the email that you would fill out in order to get a spot at orientation.
And I know there are a lot of questions. We're going to be here. We're not going anywhere. We're going to have another meeting to fill in as much detail as we can. And just want to thank everybody for paying as much attention to everything that we're publishing as they can. And I know that as we get closer, people will be more and more interested.
Wendy, you reminded me of something else I forgot to say. If there's anyone listening or knows anybody who may need help with school supplies, for their child or another child that they know. There's been a couple of community members that have reached out about wanting to do some good and to make sure that everybody has school supplies that we can get those in the hands of anyone who might need them this year. So maybe if you want to email Peter, would it be okay if they email you? And
People
you
that
can
need assistance obtaining supplies?
with school supplies. I've had a couple of people asking if we knew of anyone in the community. I think some people looking to do some good. And so if anybody is thinking about, needing extra devices or, we're in crazy times, if we need to get some school supplies to certain children, where we can make that happen. So maybe reach out to someone.
Yes.
Here.
Yep.
That's awesome. Thank you. So if anyone, does anyone else have any other questions or comments?
I just had one comment just from the bottom of my heart, and I'm sure from all of our hearts, just a profound thank you to all of the staff, all of the educators out there in Abington who started today. Just so extremely grateful for the insanity that you have lived through and are about to live through. And we will get through this, and so proud of our little town, super lucky and very grateful. So again, thank you, and best of luck to all of you guys as you make it through the next couple weeks.
I know that's appreciated.
Definitely to the Abington Education Association and all the members of the subcommittee and the principals and staff, the front office, because there's been a lot of hours and hard work and days that have been put into this. So I know it's been long and people have had taken time off from vacations or personal days that they wanted to spend with family. So thanks for everybody that have been there for us. Should we close this portion?
If the committee could just maybe, not right now, but in the next couple of days, look at your calendars and tell me when you're ready, what the best time for an executive session and another meeting would be toward the end of next week. I just let me know.
Sure. Should we stay on after this and just do that now?
You can let me know.
Late?
You can
Okay.
just let me know.
Okay, perfect. So one other thing I just wanted to say is that tonight is Teresa Sullivan, Dr. Sullivan's official last night of being a staff member on these meetings with us. If you want to return and hang out and just listen, feel free. But just wanted to thank you for all your dedication and hard work over this. We appreciate it very much.
So right up to the last day, Dr. Sullivan was helping us with this planning. She didn't mail it in. And I would bet you when we call her, she'll still pick up the phone and answer questions because that's who she is.
Thank you, Teresa. Okay, so we will discuss with you personally when our next committee meeting will be. So at this time, we have some personal items that are on the agenda for the committee members to just absorb. And other than that, I would like to see if anyone would like to make a motion to close our meeting.
I'd love to make a motion.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everyone. See you soon.